Hi, I want to do a little ClassPass review, and there's a reason because it connects to Kindedge.com and the Kindedge 360 work of health and experimentation that we work on in Kindedge 360. So the reason I'm doing this is because this is information that I wasn't able to find elsewhere on the internet, and I found it a little bit surprising and annoying that I couldn't just find the data-driven portion of ClassPass. I'm going to have a drink. Social. So ClassPass is a way to sign up for credits that you purchase in a package. So it would be like 28 credits per month or, 50 credits per month. And then you use those credits at any of many fitness, yoga, sports, health, beauty, and other such places around town and nationwide. This is something that I wanted to do because I was finding that if you have a membership only at one, I have a core gym and I always need to have a core gym. But if you have a membership at just one studio of any sort, whether it's a bicycle studio, yoga studio, any type of class that you take, Pilates studio. If you have a membership at one studio, you miss out when their schedule changes or when their schedule is too limited for you. And you miss out when you're traveling or when you're simply on the other side of town all day and you can't get back for a class. So I kind of went like, I need to solve for everything. And so if I'm going to be for several weeks, I'll be in Chicago later this fall, and I want to be able to take classes there. And sometimes, recently I had to spend a full day way up in North Tampa. And so I have found this to be very useful to be using ClassPass because I can just look at the schedule, look at the map. And then the other part that is huge for me, it's timing. Because sometimes, one of my studios changed their schedule so that their classes were no longer like, I'll give you an example. If a studio changes a class and the class used to be from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., but they change it to be from 7:15 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. By the time you shower and get out of there, you might not be able to make it to, if you have, for example, an 8:30 regular commitment. In kind, if there's a studio that has a 6 a.m. class, you'll be done by 7, and then you can shower and get out and get where you need to go by 7:30 or so. Whereas if they only have classes at 6:30 or 7, you might not be able to fit it in. And then if you're going to the airport early in the morning, you need a place that has a class at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. And same thing with all the evenings. I've just found it's so critical for me to be able to look at my schedule and find something in a location that's on the way and find something that will fit into my given schedule. And then I like the variety. I like to be sure that if I am taking a class, that it's with a teacher that has a good, healthy mental mojo. That's not just like punch you, beat you up in the gym. That's more like growth, honor where you are today, work hard, stretch you hard. So I like hot power yoga. I like to be pushed to where I feel like I'm going to give up, but then I never give up because the teacher, I choose teachers who are like, you're here to do you. You have a right to slow down. And when somebody says you have a right to slow down, if my muscles are shaking in a power yoga class and you're literally just pouring sweat and you're not sure if you can keep holding a plank or sometimes we hold really difficult positions, whatever, just really difficult positions. And you'll be shaking. But if somebody says, it's okay, you can take a break, do you, your body's different every day. Something about that permission just makes me, again, with experimentation and play, I just say to myself, well, let's just see if I breathe, I can go another 10 seconds. If I breathe, I can go another 10 seconds. And then I've done it. And at the end of the class, you just have that awesome reward. When you do that kind of workout, your mitochondria respond, your muscles get the information that they need to build and grow. Then you eat good protein. You keep the cycle going. You keep stressing your muscles. You keep giving information to tell your mitochondria to proliferate. And that's what helps me, whereas if you have a class that's just absolute off a cliff, I feel like, oh, I don't, some part of me doesn't want to just run off a cliff today, but I seem to be able to do it when I have kind of that self-compassion as part of the hard work, because I like to work hard. I don't like to be beat up and controlled and given way, because some days your body just isn't there. So ClassPass has been a wonderful experience. I can speak of in my little area, I can speak of in St. Petersburg, Florida, in Tampa, all of these areas, good variety, some great studios. I've seen really interesting studios that have a combination of classes. Some that are I really like the hot power yoga. So some that are very focused on hot, some that are very focused on hot power, some that have a variety of all different types of classes, some that are more like a gym, some that are more like a studio, some that are chains, national chains. And then the other thing, as I said, is I like to be able to know that I can go to other states in the nation to take classes, and I can just my credits can be used there. So I found it very enjoyable. But what I thought was weird in all of the reviews that I saw in other people talking about ClassPass is nobody has done the math. They're like, well, it only cost me 3 credits, or it only cost me 7 credits. And I'm like, well, yeah, what's a credit worth? And what's it worth in your town? And what does it buy you studio to studio? And they even change the value based on the time and the particular class. And that's something that ClassPass, regionally ClassPass has its valuation for what's a normal, let's just say a yoga class, a normal 1-hour yoga class in a certain region, because you pay, the standard is the dollar, but when you go to New York, it's different from a smaller town. And then, so there's that. But then there's also, when you go to a certain studio, there's higher end studios with kind of bigger services. So for example, in some of the yoga classes, at the end of the class at Sun State Yoga and certain others, they bring you a cooled lavender towel, face towel, right at the end near Shavasana. So you can take that lavender infused towel and place it over your face just right here. And you kind of, while you're in Shavasana, you're smelling this lavender scent. And it's beautiful and herbal. And then they also, like some studios are like, wipe off your own mat, wipe off your own blocks. Whereas again, at Sun State and certain other studios, they wipe down all the things for you. So it's a little bit more kind of customer oriented versus just DIY. I'm not picky, but it's just interesting to see the difference. So there's some studios that are more expensive and have kind of these all-inclusive surfaces. Some studios are full studios with multiple rooms. Some have specialty like massage rooms. Some have showers, some don't. So you kind of get the feel of like, is this a community? Is this just a walk-in, walk-out studio? Is this a place that has classes every hour? Whereas there's places that just have a class in the morning and then they close, and then they have class at noon and they close. So it's huge variety. So I like to find what fits for me, and I like to find, more importantly, what fits for my location on that day and my schedule. And so you can go through and kind of see, okay, I'm paying nationwide. ClassPass has their price. So you pay like $59 and you get like 28 credits. You pay, different packages. And then for the month, you would just kind of see, how many credits do I normally use? Well, for me to know how many credits, I really had to test it out. So I had to go, okay, well, I usually take this morning class at this studio, and that class is usually 3 credits. But if I take the noon class at that studio, and it's the more shishi class, maybe it's like a trendy class, that one is 7 credits. Okay, so that's a difference in the math. But then there's also a difference in what that studio normally charges per class, per 10 class package, and per monthly membership and or annual membership. So I haven't seen anybody to sit down, say, pick one town, find out what's normal to pay for a class in that town. And like in my town, most classes are between $4 to like $29 for a class if you're just walking in off the street to pay for a class. And then if you have a 10 class package or a 20 class package, you will of course bring down that price down to as low as like $11 per class. And then if you're doing a monthly membership, again, you might even get it down a little bit lower, monthly or annual membership. If you prepay and you get it unlimited, then they really give you kind of like, hey, you can take any class anytime. You just pay this membership. And some places will have a membership that's $1,200 a year, $1,000 a year, higher, lower, $1,400 a year. But then you have to ask yourself, if I get it super cheap down to the class price, where am I actually going to make use of that? Because again, as I do my experimentation, I find, sometimes I'm way an hour and a half north Tampa. Sometimes I'm way on the south side of St. Pete. Maybe I'm west. Maybe I'm traveling to another city. So I kind of say, well, I'm not sure I would make use of one full annual membership at one studio, as well as the fact that even if I was just in one location, I know that in one small part of St. Petersburg, Florida, I would probably end up using 4 or 5 different studios because sometimes I need to get to a 6 a.m. class. Sometimes I need to get to a 7 a.m. class. Sometimes I need a noon class, and so on. And so you have to sit down and take a scenario and make those assumptions. So that's what I've done is I've sat down and said, here's the assumption. It's just me as one guinea pig, one litmus test, but I'm kind of normal because I do my gym workouts at my standard gym. So I end up taking about 3 classes per week. So I sat down and said, let's just assume I'm doing 3 classes per week. And I looked at 1 month and I said, okay, in this month, this class was 3 credits. This class was 5 credits. Da, 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 da. So in the end, for the ClassPass costs that I pay per month, it comes down to this many credits that I'm using. And on average, for my normal week, I would be using 3 credits here, 5 credits here, 7 credits here. So in the total of those credits, what's the price of that per week and then per month? And then if I look at those same studios, what's the comparative price if I bought just a class, a class, a class? And what would happen if I could narrow my scenario down to, okay, let's say I'm going to buy 2 actual memberships. And then I would do like ad hoc to these other places when I'm out of town. What would that come to? So I did the math because I can't believe nobody on the internet has done class to actually say, per class, what are you paying in order to have this ClassPass program? Because if you do ClassPass, but you end up going to the same 3 places every week, it probably is cheaper for you to just buy a 10 class pass or a 20 or a membership to those studios and then just treat that as your core circulation. And then you can do one-offs elsewhere. Whereas if you're doing a huge variety and there's a lot of unpredictability and you will need to be going to lots of different studios, or you simply like going to many different classes from biking to team running to gym sessions to weightlifting sessions to boxing sessions to yoga to hot yoga to all these other things to ice baths and that kind of thing. If you want to just have so much variety, then ClassPass is probably right up your alley. And it probably makes sense to do that because that would be cheaper than doing either memberships or class packages with each of those studios, or even paying the one-off fee. So I wanted to get down to is for a person like me, who is probably like others who would consider this, should I do ClassPass? Should I buy packages with the studios? For a person like me, I just said, I'll just make one set of assumptions. And then you can see, okay, if I just picked one studio and did their annual membership and got it as cheap as possible, I'd be paying $11 per class. You want to get it down to a per class, like get it away from the confusing things of credits and the credits change per city and the credits change per time. And it gets obfuscated. It gets hard to see the dollar cost, which I think is a little bit of a game. And I think it's a little bit why people on the internet haven't really talked about the math, is they're maybe promoted by ClassPass. Although I do have a ClassPass link, and that's simply because I'm a new ClassPass member. So I'm not like promoting them. It's just when you're a new member, they give you a link for other people to join and get points and get a better package, get a better intro kind of thing. So you can use the link below to try out ClassPass. And so, yeah, so do the math, make these assumptions to get some apples to apples, because I've seen no other review for ClassPass that makes it apples to apples. Get the credits and all the moving pieces out of the picture. Get the multiple packages and that kind of thing into apples to apples categories, and then say, if I assume I'm doing this, this, and this, and I'm this type of person, because that's the type of person who's probably considering ClassPass but not sure, then just make these assumptions. And we say, in this scenario, you could get it down to $11, but you'd be at one studio. So you'd be stuck at one studio to get it down to $11. And I'll show you in my spreadsheet in just a minute. Then in this scenario where you're doing the variety, we can assume that you're never going to be able to get as cheap as an annual membership at one studio. But if you're doing multiple studios, then we're comparing the 10 class pass, the 20 class pass. If you could use those up over the year, what's the comparison of that versus a class pass and the types of credits you're ending up using in your class pass practical example. And then, the question is, if you just did, if you're just doing ClassPass all the time, Is it worth it? Are you ever having to pay for extra credits? Is the package you're using at ClassPass meeting the number of credits you need? And so I'm just going to lay it out in an Excel spreadsheet. People do math. Money, math matters. Like we act like, oh, it was so fun to go to a class and have all the variety. But I'm like, yeah, but nobody's talking about the math. Nobody's doing the apples to apples. They're trying to obfuscate the numbers. So I'm just like, kindedge.com. Everything I do is about, Kindedge 360 is about health, growth, experimentation, but it's also about being data driven, right? We make decisions that are sustainable for the long run because we figure out what works by being data driven. We're not like woo woo. It's real. Money is real, just as real. If you can deal with money, you can make all the good things in your life sustainable. So just do the math. So I'm going to pull out my spreadsheet and just show you the numbers. Okay, so a little change of scenery, but continuing on the ClassPass, I'm going to get to the Excel spreadsheet details that you want that's going to actually help you know, based on your utilization, in what cases ClassPass is going to be beneficial and how you might want to use it. So as I said, I found the flexibility to be the game changer. The fact that when I'm traveling, when I'm on the north end of Tampa, when I'm at the south end of Sarasota, when I'm at the west side of the St. Pete area, it's just incredible to be able to pop into a studio and take a class. ClassPass is cool because the app tells you if the studio has a shower and what other facilities it has. So for me, if I'm at a studio near my home, I don't really care about the shower. It's not such a big deal. But if I'm far away taking a hot power class and I need to go to a meeting after a lunchtime yoga class, I need to know if there's a shower and that I can bring a change of clothes in order to change, etc. So all of those features have just made it a total game changer because I never want my workouts to be hijacked just because of timing issues and location issues. If I'm going to the airport super early, certain places have really early classes. I can pop in there. It's incredible. I can also look at the location I'm flying to and see where I can take a class upon arrival, etc. So it's really been a game changer. I'm going to give before I get to the numbers, I'm going to give a shout out to some of the St. Pete, Florida locations and the Tampa, Florida locations that I really love because it'll give you an idea of how you will evaluate whether your community is going to support your best use of ClassPass. So if you have one favorite studio and you will only ever go to that gym, that studio, that class, that Peloton class, whatever, I don't know that you need ClassPass. ClassPass is more about variety of time, location, classes, facilities, that kind of thing. I have my own gym membership and I'm very passionate about every other day when I'm not at the gym doing weights or ballet, I want to do hot power yoga. So I need to, not all studios offer a lot of hot power classes. Some studios offer a little bit of everything. Some studios offer a lot of yoga, but not a lot of hot power. And so I am able to tap into ClassPass is just a game changer for me. I can get an 11 o'clock class. I can get a 1 o'clock class. I can get a noon class. I can do it north, south, east, west. Totally awesome. So in St. Pete, these are the things that I liked about the studios that I have now kind of found as the ones I'm going to frequent. And you're going to look at similar things, whether you're in New York City or in California or any other city across the nation. These are the types of things you're going to think about. So Sun State Yoga is in St. Pete near downtown. And I had never gone there because I thought the parking was going to be an issue because it's so close to downtown. In fact, parking's easy. And they said that in the app. I got an email right away when I registered and I was still kind of like hesitant. I showed up, parking was totally easy. And it's funny because I've been to places around there where parking's not easy, but they've totally got their parking set. So that was just ClassPass opened a door for me that I had been closing on my own. So Sun State Yoga is locally owned. Their teachers are all of a uniform type. They're all close. They're all they're all part of that studio. They teach in the same style. Sun State teaches in a very traditional sequence, the traditional vinyasa sequence, Sun A's, Sun B's, so on and so forth. And so they all teach in the same style, little variation from teacher to teacher, but really of the same ilk and the same mindset. And then definitely big into the mindfulness. It's not Jane Fonda power workout. It's mindfulness, do you. We're going to give suggestions, of things that are going to stretch your abilities. And I really look to take classes that stretch my abilities when I'm almost about to give up, when I'm holding something and shaking and I'm sweating. But if I hold for a few more seconds or a few more breaths, I come out of that class stronger and better. But knowing that the teacher is so about self-agency and you do you, it always gives me permission. If it's a day when your body's not feeling it, you don't have to kill yourself. You don't need a teacher yelling at you or Jane Fonda pressuring you. I'm not against Jane Fonda. I'm just saying like the 1980s tough it out kind of stuff, or the Orange Theory, somebody's screaming at you type thing. It's not like that. So I really enjoy those kind of classes, because when I'm at the gym, I really do work myself really hard, and kind of like the voice in my head is harder on me. And I want a teacher who's got the kind voice to remind me that I do have permission if my body's not feeling it one day. But I do like classes that challenge me and help me grow. So Sun State Yoga is all about that. They are a small studio, but all of their classes are great. And again, just a very close family feel. The owner is a lovely local family. Everybody's connected. It's just good people. It's what you come to St. Pete for. St. Pete, they call it Small Pete sometimes, which is, it's a small town when you really get to know it, even though we've got world-class museums and the best of beaches and the best of cities. And we've got fintech in St. Pete. We've got everything you could desire in St. Pete, but it really is a small town. Sun State is a fabulous place. I recommend anybody in this area to try out Sun State. Really good mojo. And so that's going to be I would kind of call Sun State now my home gym, or my home studio if I had one. So Beach Town Yoga, big warehouse. I think all their classes are hot. All the classes I've been to are hot. They have a mix of teachers. So their teachers teach elsewhere. They kind of come and go as independent contractors. They pop in. So every class, huge variety, but definitely very focused. It's not kind of like Clueless. It's not, they're not selling, they're not a chain selling to people. They're attracting people who are really into yoga. And so it's a really good community, good people, and it's a warehouse feel. So it's in the warehouse district, the artsy warehouse district, right off of Central, and their parking is on the street. It worked out fine. I was worried at first, but they are kind of difficult parking. You have to park on the street or get there very early. So again, good feel, just huge variety in teachers. So you have to kind of like go a couple times to a certain class to see if that's your mojo, because every teacher is different, but definitely every class I've been there has been exactly what I wanted. And, like, for example, they don't have showers. So you just have to know you're kind of showing up, taking the class, leaving, go get coffee. There's a ton of awesome coffee right around the corner is Pour and Decor Coffee. Awesome. Tons of little coffee shops right around. So totally fun. So Beach Town is like that funky feel. It's less of a studio and more of like a funky show up, walk in, do it. Berg CrossFit Gym. My gosh. So I didn't even know they had yoga classes, but they do all this, the CrossFit gym, the huge warehouse, the ice baths, the hanging on the walls, climbing the walls. They do everything there. It's like a bro gym that I would never go to. And I've always gone by because my dog daycare, love my doggy daycare, is right down the street. So I've driven by all the time, seeing them out there lifting things, running around the building and everything. And so I went and took this awesome class with a teacher named Sol. They have a beautiful private room upstairs. I think we only had 6 people in the class. It was like a warm little Sunday morning hug. It was warm and funky. And then I got out of there and they were begging me to stay and work out with them and stay at the gym. They invited me back, which I still will consider to do. And the coolest thing is this big warehouse with big walls that open up, and they're dog friendly. So they're like, come bring your dog while you work out. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. Donovan would love that. And so the Bird CrossFit Gym does ClassPass, and so you can sign up there. I totally might use them for other classes, but I definitely, it was just like beautiful. And it was kind of like camping, like showing up on a Sunday morning for this awesome organic yoga class, and just it's just people and bodies and movement and smiles and highs and hellos and everything. Really cool. And then Rare Body Studio is on MLK in St. Pete, also near downtown. And they're mostly a Pilates studio, but they have a huge variety of classes. So I took a yoga class that was a a strength yoga class. So they actually use arm weights. I like the mindfulness more. I like the body movement. I grew up studying ballet, so I kind of like the whole body thing. So when I use weights, I get a little distracted, but it was awesome as a workout. It was like really hard when you're doing weights in your arms while you're doing like a lunge forward in Thunderbolt. Holy cow, you are just shaking and sweating these long holds while you're doing weights with your arms. It is a great workout. And again, they're very mindful, very cool. The room is kind of funky, like dark with bright neon, mindful words on the wall and neon signs and stuff. So really cool. Great studio, warm, friendly, wonderful. And they have good facilities there. And right next door, I'm going to give a shout out to Fireflow next door on MLK. Fireflow is not part of ClassPass, I don't believe, but I have just signed up for a Fireflow class next week because my other friend, also named Mary, she's gone nuts about Fireflow. She said it's the most wonderful, magical, awesome power classes. And so she's insisted that I try it. I totally want to. So I'm excited. I'm going to go try their class out next Thursday and give that a go. And I'm going to try to do some regular classes there, assuming that I like it as well. But, again, Mary's been raving about it. So I just give a shout out because I love passionate, great small businesses in St. Pete. Tampa, Bella Prana. It's my North Tampa home base. So Bella Prana is mindful, wonderful, kind. What's cool there is they have a full like multi-studio building. So it's many classes going on at the same time. People are coming and going all the time. So it's just got all of the things that you could want. They've got showers. So again, that's kind of what I care about when I'm in North Tampa is if I'm up there, I'm probably up there for a meeting and I'm probably doing something. So I'm glad, it's nice to be able to shower there and head out for the rest of the day. They also are in an area where I thought parking would be trouble. They have 3 different areas to park and they give tons of directions when you sign up. They shoot you an email, tons of directions about where to park. It was totally easy. It wasn't as complicated as I thought. Kodawari is a big multi-studio, very funky place. It's hidden kind of in the back of a shopping center, so you wouldn't find it on your own. It is a wonderful community. Not only did I love the class that I took there, but I was able to go back when my son was in from England. He got a break from his motorsports racing job to come home to the United States. And so we went and did a cold bath, sauna, meditation, sound bath, evening session. It was amazing. It was totally cool. And so Kodawari, all the people are warm, engaging, mixes of ages, mixes of everything, but definitely of that mindfulness. Like if you want to heal your soul, go there. Something and someone is going to heal your soul. Really great place. Camp Tampa is a wonderland of fitness. So cool. Again, I didn't know what it was. I wouldn't have gone there if it wasn't like, well, I've got this package. I'm going to be in that location. So ClassPass is like this little menu of here's a time, here's a place. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. It's called Camp Tampa, but if they have yoga, I'll go take it. Oh my gosh, it is a compound. It is a huge campus of all these different buildings, yoga classes, fitness classes, biking classes, every type of exercise, people like just everything. And it's people showing up and doing their Friday morning workouts. And then some people are going to this class and some are going to that class. And it's a huge campus. And they were so excited to show me around. If you go, ask whoever you take a class from or wherever you check in, take your class. Ask to be shown around and they'll show you around the different buildings and such a cool place and young vibe, that Hyde Park, South Tampa or mid Tampa area is such a cool young vibe. But, me at 53, I felt totally cool and, included. I didn't feel odd at all. But just energy, like, when I say young vibe, it's just energy, fun. We're here to use our bodies. We're all excited to be doing this. So I love it. I love working hard and feeling like it's normal and it's not like some sort of other thing. I don't believe exercises is the hard part and then you go do the good part. I feel like the exercise is also the fun, engaging, exciting part. So Camp Tampa, so freaking cool. And then there's a national chain. I won't mention the name. If I'm saying anything a little bit negative, I'm just not going to mention the name. But there's a national chain. And what I found that is beneficial for me there is they have a ton of classes at very like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, 6:30, like boom, 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 boom. So if I have an early schedule and I need to get in and make sure I get my workout in because I have a busy day, I can sign up there and get a class. What I don't love is that national chain has these kind of like really rote formulaic classes that are predefined and the teachers are there just to deliver that. So you're getting less from individual teachers. And I believe that what I observed is that the teachers learned from that chain versus having, I can't say this for all the teachers, but it seems like they learned their practice from this chain versus having spent years and years in the practice of yoga and doing the full 200 hours. Like, I don't know what the differences are, but I just had a sense that you're here to do this corporate thing and check the box for their defined certain set of types of classes. And it's fine. And one of my friends said she likes it because it's clean, and it is very clean. It's in a corporate building and that kind of thing. So, or in a corporate kind of setup. So that works from a schedule standpoint, but I would say that, I didn't fall in love with it. Others in St. Pete that I didn't fall in love with were ones where it was just a studio that teachers would come and go and rent it, just not even a studio, just a room. And so I like to have some sort of sense of there's a center gathering place or a bathroom or like a front desk and that kind of thing. And so sometimes if there's just a room that gets rented, you show up, you leave, it feels a little bit less like a community and like you're entering a space and you're kind of going deep into this. It just feels like you're just kind of attending a class. So those types of things weren't my favorite. There's one that was more of a very small fitness place that was just very neighborhood focused. What I noticed is I showed up and I think I was the only one new and everybody else knew each other. So they were all talking and the room was so small. It was a tiny room. So it was like being closed in a little closet in a room with people. The teacher was wonderful, passionate. She ran the studio. You could, she was fit, but she was so sweet. Like her heart was as big as her muscles. And so I totally respect it, but it was just kind of like, I felt like, well, this wouldn't be where I would go unless I lived in that neighborhood, and then I might go there a lot. So you might discover you're kind of stepping into little places like that. Sometimes you try it out once, you just see if it fits your mojo. Who knows, you might make a friend and be part of that neighborhood. And then there was one where they taught this, just none of the students seemed really fitness minded. It seemed like they were just there to show up and take a class. And I like people who challenge me. So, I'm not just there to show up in sweatpants and leave. I'm there to actually work really hard. So again, you'll kind of get the feel for different places as to whether they have that kind of clientele. And so those are the types of things you might look for when you're testing out. I took 2 months. Take 2 months with ClassPass if you want to. I don't have an affiliation with them. I don't have any sort of money affiliation with them. But take 2 months because you have to kind of like spread it out. And if you look into ClassPass and you check, they have a trial period. So in that trial period, even without paying anything, you can at least see all the studios that make sense for you in the locations that you tend to be in during your week. So now the numbers. Okay. This is what nobody talks about. This is what nobody will say. Every video I watched when I tried to do research on whether ClassPass made sense or why people do it, nobody would just talk about the numbers. So it's math. It's your paycheck. It's your money. Talk about it. Think about it. So examples are if you get the 8 credit package based on the cost, you're paying $2.38 per credit. If you get the 15 credit package per month, you're paying $2.33 per credit. If you get the 28 package, the 28 credit package, you're paying $2.11. You can see the more you buy, the cheaper each credit is. So if you're just a hobbyist, I'm not sure that you're going to need these packages in ClassPass. Just go to this. If you only go to one class a month, like many classes are between 2 and 10 credits. So if you buy an 8 credit package, I don't know why you're doing ClassPass. Just pay for, it's kind of silly. Just pay for the class. You're not really doing yourself any good. But I take on average 12 hot power yoga classes per month, because every other day I go to my gym. And so I was initially planning to look into the 38 credit package, and that actually wasn't enough for me. I did tests on the classes that I like that I'm going to go to, what are those studios charging in terms of number of credits? And so I looked into that and I just found that I was going to chew up those 38 credits quickly. That $79 package wasn't for me. So I'm a little bit at the bigger $139 package, and that gets me 68 credits. So that brings my per credit price down. So you have to, you look at this, you think, oh, I'm paying this per month to ClassPass, but then you have to think about what are you getting out of it in terms of those credits? How does it compare to if I just walked into the studio and paid them myself? Or if I bought a package with that studio. And again, you're going to do fine. If you have one studio and you only ever go to one studio, just do a full membership with them or a monthly membership or whatever. Because if that's the only place you're going to go, you're going to get your best deal probably through the studio. But I got the 68 credit package. They also have bigger packages. 100, if you buy a 100 credit package, you're paying $1.99 per credit. If you get the 125, you're paying, it gets done. Anyhow, we will just focus on my example because if you're bothering with ClassPass, I'm a pretty good example of frequency in terms of what you're going to use. So we're going to use this to get down to real numbers. So I'm getting the 68 credit package and, it's $2.04 per credit. So that's what I'm spending. So now, how does that compare to other things? Well, I took a bunch of classes and then I looked at those classes and I said, I didn't try to be cheap about credits. Like you can look at a studio and one class might be 2 credits and one class might be 8 credits. You might look at one studio and their classes are all 12 credits. And you could look at another one, maybe their sessions are 1. So I didn't want to think about the numbers. I just wanted to say naturally, where am I going to go based on my schedule, based on my likings and so on. So I took an average of, 3 credits, 6 credits, 10 credits, 8, 4, 7, 4, 5, 3, 2. And so it came down to an average of 5.2 credits per class. So for the classes I naturally attend, I pay 5.2 ClassPass credits per class. So as you know, for my package, each credit is $2.04. So that means that if each class on average is 5.2 credits and each credit costs me $2.04, then $10.61 is what I'm paying for each of my classes. So when you go to a studio and you walk into a studio, I'm just going to show you, I did a review of a bunch of the studios, and I'm going to tell you some of the normal prices for the studios that I looked at and all of their packages. So studios will commonly have a 10 class pass. You walk in off the street and just pay for one class. Then they'll have a 10 class pass. Then they'll have certain things that expire sooner, or they'll have monthly with some certain limits, or monthly unlimited. And, they'll have all these different packages. But in general, if you walk into a studio off the street and pay for one class, in my area, generally, you are going to pay between $25 and $29 per class. So in general, if I'm just walking off the street like, hey, I want to take your class, it's generally going to be $25 to $29 per class. So that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Then if you look at a 10 class pass, on average, you are going to be paying per class between $19.50 to $25. So that is kind of what you're looking at if you say, well, I want to economize. I want to get a 10 class pass. And again, you have to look at the details of when does that 10 class pass expire? Is it 6 months? Are you going to use it up? If I bought 10 class passes at a whole bunch of different studios, I'm not positive I would be able to use those all up in 6 months or whenever they expire. So you have to really, if you're buying any sort of package with a studio, you really have to think that you're going to be hitting it on the regular. So between $19.50 and $25 per class for for a 10 class pass. Then for the studios that offer monthly unlimited, which again, there's a few studios that do a yearly program where you can get the price a little bit lower. But in general, for most of these, the best price that you're going to get per class is going to be the monthly unlimited or whatever their unlimited packages. Now I'm looking at the numbers because I have to compare apples to apples. In my scenario, as I've said, I'm doing 12 classes per month. So I'm thinking in my head, for whatever I'm paying for that monthly package, even though it's unlimited, I'm not going to 100 classes, right? I'm not getting that level of economy. I'm assuming I'm going to be going 12 times a month. But again, I can't go 12. I won't be able to use it very well if I'm not in the right city, if I'm not there that day, if I'm in North Tampa or whatever. So you have to think about that limitation when you're buying a package with only one studio. So the monthly unlimited could range from $8.83 for the examples that I looked at up to $13.33. And then if I take any fewer than 12 classes, like I don't use it as much, that price obviously goes up. Examples of if I only took 8 classes per month with a certain studio, I'd be paying between $13.25 up to $20 per class. So you remember when I did the ClassPass math in my scenario, it was that $10 example. So if you're comparing $10, in any of these situations when I'm paying their membership, I'm paying $13.33, $11.58, and possibly $8.83. And I'll tell you which studio that was because they are a winner. That would be probably the only one that could beat ClassPass. So that's the math there is in my scenario, which is a very common kind of middle of the road type of utilization, is that ClassPass is going to be a great deal for you. And also you're going to make better use of, you're going to get more exercise because you can do it anywhere you want. And you can do it at different times of the day. You're not stuck to if your studio changes their schedule, loses a teacher, drops a class, stops offering power at the time that you can be there. I kept getting hijacked when studios would do that. And I'm like, why is my life out of control? And again, I said, my Kindedge mantra is do what works in real life. That's what we do in Kindedge. Do what works in real life. So I'm like, I can't have a relationship with a studio that hijacks me. I need to build in the flexibility so that it works for me, my body, my schedule, and I'm dedicated to this, but I've got to have a system that works. So yeah, $10.61 is what I'm paying on average per class. And then so I end up using 62 point. So every month I'll probably have a little bit extra, but it's very easy to use that up just by adding on another class or taking maybe some sort of more expensive class just because they're charging more credits for that particular class. Or if you end it, since the credits roll over in my package, the credits roll over. So then I have no problem then going to get a haircut or a beauty or a massage or something like that. There's all these beauty services. I wouldn't normally use the beauty services with ClassPass because it gets ridiculous, because it's better to go get a massage or a beauty service and just pay cash for that. Because in ClassPass, you end up, normal yoga classes, group classes are generally 2 credits, 5 credits, 8 credits, 12 credits. But if you go get your hair done, that one-on-one service, they charge like 132 credits. So at that point, you can think you'd be buying like a whole extra month package. Well, are you going to do that? Like, you won't know your regularity. You can see I've done the math of exactly how much I'm predictable. And I know my math because I'm predictable in terms of when I work out. If you do one massage here and you do one hair beauty treatment there, adding on all those credits does not make sense because you won't have a consistent monthly package that works for you. You'll either be building up too many credits or not enough. And anytime you buy extra credits at the end of the month, if you're just adding on a couple of extra credits, it gets way too expensive because you end up paying what you should be paying if you're really making good use of your ClassPass credits. So you end up getting, if you buy those extra credits, the math ends up at $3 per credit. And at that point, you're not really getting the benefits. So if you wouldn't want to buy 50 extra credits at $3 per credit just to be able to get your hair done, just go pay your hairdresser. Just go pay for the massage directly. Just pay them directly with your credit card, cash, whatever. So that's the math that nobody will talk about. People just say, well, it's so great. You can do this, you can do that. Well, no, I don't think it makes sense for beauty massages, that kind of thing, unless you're just using extra rollover credits. But yes, it totally makes sense if you're somebody who needs a lot of flexibility and you want your workout programs to work for you. And again, I was able to sign up, I was only focused on the yoga, but when I was traveling, I signed up for gyms. Like you can do anything anywhere, gyms, Peloton classes, whatever. And I realized when I was there, I was just trying to find yoga classes. And I'm like, well, I also need a gym. And I was like, duh, I'm a member of a national chain gym, but I also, that national chain doesn't have locations everywhere. This way I was able to go. I went into a place called CFX. It was a gym called CFX when I was up in the Chicago area. And I'd never heard of it, but ClassPass showed it to me and I went, okay, I'll go work out there. And I did one day of weights at CFX. And then I did nerd ballet because I will do what works in real life. And if I need to do my nerd ballet right in the middle of the bro gym where all the gym guys are working out, I'll do it. So I did that. It was fun. So that's the summary. That's the math. I hope you learned something and now you know if this works for you or not. But I was so frustrated when I was watching online and I'm like, this is the kind of thing in Kindedge that we talk about is you've got to build in all the tools, all the systems, all the things that work for you so that your day, that you're doing all your priorities because when you have a big goal, if you are working on a career change, if you're trying to start a charity, if you're trying to work on planning a divorce and you're stressed out about that or whatever it is, you want to become a screenwriter, whatever the big life changes that you're working on, you need to have your body fit. You need to have your mind fit. You need to have your soul fit and you need to have your processes and system fit to buoy you, right? Even if you're like, I want to go give a TED talk or I want to make a proposal to try to get funding for my new business idea. You need to it's not just paperwork and it's not just a presentation. You need to be physically fit to give a speech. You need your body to be ready to breathe and be very efficient about using oxygen and efficient about rest and recovery and coming back inside your skin when you're nervous. You need to be physically fit just as much when you're doing something with your brain. You need all of those things working together. And so in kindedge.com, when we're looking at big life change and how do we get that in motion? I went to the Guru Inspo weekend thing and I did all this cool stuff. But how do I get it in motion Monday? Because Monday draws you back and you have to build a muscle for change, which is how do I actually push harder? How do I push harder than I ever did? That's Kindedge. So kind as we make this sustainable every day. You have to do this again and again, day after day. But the edge is how do I push past my edge? How do I have the conversation that how do I push harder negotiating with my employer? How do I learn better skills for negotiating a better work situation with my employer so that I can do my passion? How do I renegotiate finances with my family, my spouse, in order to live my purpose now rather than waiting for the future that may never come? So I'm dying and so are you. And we only get this one golden ticket here once. So we got to use it. So I want you to join me on this kindedge.com journey. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be fun. Peace. Okay, so we're going on with the ClassPass review and the things that ClassPass does not want you to know. It's called using an Excel spreadsheet to figure out exactly what you're paying per class. And I will back up and just why are we doing this as part of kindedge.com? And this big, big project of you to unlock the alternate ending to your life. The reason we're doing these types of experiments is because in Kindedge, we are re-examining every part of our lives to create a foundation that is designed to support your dream life and make every single day so good that you feel in flow, and then the hard work to achieve your dream is infinitely sustainable. So I've rebuilt and re-examined everything in my life. And I call this process conscious curation because you're re-choosing everything in your life, every person, every community, every environment, every object that you allow into your life and into your five senses. This impacts how you flow in your day, how every day strings together, and how you feel, how you're rewarded intrinsically by the experience you have in every day. And as you climb to reach the big goal you have in your life, that big change you've been wanting, you need to make every day rewarding so that you will continue that hard climb the next day and the next day and the next day. So I realized I was getting hijacked in one of the parts of my life that's very important to me. That's part of that recipe of the awesome, sustainable, daily, rewarding days. I was getting hijacked in my yoga practices because I had an expensive membership at one studio, and a lot of what I was investing in that membership kept getting wasted, and my days were getting hijacked because they would continually drop the hot power yoga classes that I primarily focused on and used and found rewarding. And that was part of my health and longevity goals. And then they would change the schedule, or they would drop a class, or it just moved things around to where I could not attend the classes that I had the membership in order to use. Like, the whole point of the membership was to go to these certain classes, and they would move the class or drop the class or lose a teacher. And so I was, unable to make best use of that investment in that membership. I also always maintain a membership at a separate gym. So I had to make sure that I was getting value out of the kind of ends up being like 12 hot power yoga classes per month is my average, because I do alternating gym and yoga. And so I kind of had to step back and be like, okay, the mantra with Kindedge, the rule that I have tested that is true, is when you're doing these things to optimize your life, the kindedge.com mantra is, no matter what somebody else says, or no matter what seems perfect or ideal, you're only going to include something in your life if it works in real life, in the real way your days roll, in the real way your energies flow, in the real way that life's days unfold and the chaos happens. You need things that plug into your life. You can't be ideally hoping that you'll always make it to yoga, but when they change the schedule, you don't make it there. You want something that just clicks well with your life. So that's why I went into this deep look into, do what works in real life. Is this working? No, this isn't working. This is hijacking my health goals, hijacking, for me, yoga, the mindfulness, the combination of a really hard, hot power yoga class where you're telling your muscles to grow and you're stressing beyond something that you're able to do. You're going beyond what you currently are able to do. But then you also are including mindfulness, self-compassion, and self-kindness, and rest and recovery, kind of that whole arc in just one class. It's incredible. It's a total defrag of everything. It's a total reset for me in all ways. It's like the whole rest of the day is downhill flow, and it feels good. And it also, brings in a good community of people and that kind of thing. So I went, I was at the store one day and I saw a gym buddy named Kelsey, and we were just chit-chatting, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of challenged. This isn't really working for me, because she was just asking, oh, I haven't seen you at this place. Are you at this place? What's going on? I'm like, well, this isn't working. And so Kelsey's like, have you tried ClassPass? And I was like, duh, no, I haven't run that experiment. I've been narrowly trying to make something work that was giving evidence of not working. And I have not tried ClassPass, which allows you to take yoga classes anywhere at any time. So my experiment with ClassPass for 2 months has been fabulous and a learning experience. And it's really brought me closer to a lot of things in my community that I value. So what I found that I loved with ClassPass, and I'm going to give the good, the bad, and the exact pricing that it comes down to, that nobody online, I always go down a rabbit hole of research before I jump into something. Anywhere else online, I did not see anybody who reviewed ClassPass neutrally, impartially. So they seemed to be kind of selling it, and nobody would talk about the dollars. They were like, oh, it's great. I enjoyed this class. Well, I don't really care about the class. I care about, is that financial approach to taking different classes at different studios good? And you have to compare it credit by credit, dollar for dollar, in comparison what you would pay at a variety of studios otherwise. is. So high level, the way I find this useful, and I will tell you right up front, this is part of my going forward. As long as ClassPass runs the way it does in the future, and the way it works in my community and the way it works in the places I travel to, it is a winner. It's become a game changer in terms of letting all of the places that I want to do yoga at and work out at click into my schedule, where I am located in a day, where I'm traveling to. It all clicks. It's awesome. So I loved being able to go to many places in my area. I loved being drawn into different neighborhoods in the St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Tampa area. If I was having an appointment in North Tampa, I would go up there, find a place, and I found some places that were maybe like, maybe I'll go back there again, but it's not my favorite. And there's other places where I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the studio, and it opened up doors. It also opened me up into trying. I did do with my older son who was visiting from England. He flew in from England because he had a break from his engineer racing job thing. And so we were able to do a cold plunge sauna meditation session, sound bath meditation session. So that was super fun. And that I only discovered that particular place because of ClassPass. So it's just kind of opened doors in many ways. So I loved that. And then when I was traveling in Wisconsin, Madison, the Chicago area, I was able to not only attend, so I have a national membership at a gym, so I'm able to hit a gym anywhere in most cases. But I also was able to take yoga classes while I was traveling at great yoga studios where there's lots of reviews. I was, so I was sure I was going to get a good hot power class that was also very mindful and not just like, I don't like Jane Fonda style. Like, I mean, I love Jane Fonda, but I'm not there just to do that. I want the true yoga mindset, the personal growth, the personal agency, self-agency, the self-kindness, along with a really hard hot power class. So I want the yin and the yang, quite literally. And so I really enjoyed being able to just kind of feel like a local, show up at the place. They've got your name. You're already registered. It's done. You walk in. It's not like you're trying to fit into some place that you're not a member. You kind of feel like you're a member everywhere. When you walk in, they're like, oh yeah, you're checking in, Mary. Okay, great. And every once in a while, they'll have you click 3 little boxes on a waiver if it's a certain type of gym, but no biggie. So I was able to do that while I was in Chicago. And then also ClassPass, even though I'm focused on the yoga classes, they have many, many types of gyms. So in a case where my national network of a gym wasn't close enough to where I was staying for a couple of the days when I was in the Chicago area, I used ClassPass to join a gym. And at that gym, on one of the days, I did weights. And on the other day, I did my nerd ballet at the gym. And it was this big, tough workout kind of gym. But I find a way to do my nerd ballet no matter what. All I need is something to hold on to and whatever. I do usually do at my home gym, I do weights on my ankles while I'm doing ballet. But at this case, I was able to just do the whole ballet class in the gym. And so I got every single day, I really don't like to travel. I like to travel, but what I don't like is traveling and losing a sense of self, losing my focus on longevity and health and exercise. So I feel great again when I check all the boxes and do all my health, and then I go out with my friends and we'll have some drinks and we'll do that kind of thing, whatever. But I really like to, and then I also, I literally, like, if I'm getting a hotel, I will book the hotel to be next to a health grocery store where I know I'll get my high protein, gluten-free foods, and I'll bring foods back to my hotel or bring it over to my friend's house, which I did in this case, because I don't like to eat garbage when I travel. I like to have fun, but I don't want to spend 10 days traveling and then come home feeling like sludge. I like to feel like I have this all the puzzle pieces click together. So it's all sustainable. I can have fun and I'm still doing my higher purpose. I'm still living the lifestyle I seek. I don't ever want regret, right? if I die tomorrow, I just don't want to regret the way I lived. So if I load in, when I arrived in Madison before I went to the wedding and all these other things, the first thing I did is I checked into my Airbnb and I went for a long run. And when I check in other places, when I know I'm going to be spending all day with friends or whatever, I get up early at 5:30 in the morning and I go for a run, or I go to a gym, or I do whatever I need to do to check that box. And then I have my coffee, I do my meditation, I do some writing and that kind of thing. And then I can have the rest of the day be whatever is going to unfold as that other part of life where you're with other people just going with the flow. This is how we work in Kindedge to say, if all of these things need to come together, what are the tools? Let's experiment with the tools and the puzzle pieces that are going to make this all work. So as an example, this is what I would say. If you live in a very rural area, it is possible ClassPass won't work as well for you, because the further into the rural areas you get, the fewer studios there are that participate in ClassPass. This might change in the future, but from what I saw, if I was way out in the country, which when I was so downtown Madison has a lot of memberships. If you get, for a little bit, I was at a lake house further outside. And at that point, you're not really going to find what you're looking for in terms of ClassPass. But in many cases, in Madison, I was able to find a gym and that kind of thing. So quite literally, I was checking out, I had done this wedding and I worked out at the wedding and but I was able, literally, before I went all the way out into the countryside to this lake house, I was able to stop at a gym, work out, and then went to the lake house. So before I knew I was going to be far away from gyms, I found one that was right outside of Madison, or right on the edge of Madison. So it was just like, yay. It was, and again, it's just an app in your phone. You click, you register, and you take the map and you show up there. It's so easy. They know your name when you walk in, easy peasy. So here in St. Petersburg, Florida, Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton, all of these areas are packed full of gyms, specialty class, Pilates, biking, Peloton style places, CrossFit style gyms, and tons of yoga studios. So where I live, I could do ClassPass all day, every day, nonstop, and like never stop visiting new locations. So I found in my area, this is beyond amazing. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to give a few shout outs. Sun State Yoga is fantastic. It has a very strong culture. All of the teachers are very uniform in terms of they know each other very well. They teach the same style. They teach a very traditional, the traditional vinyasa yoga style, the set. There's kind of a set sequence. And so they teach the traditional vinyasa set sequence. They'll open up with the sun A's, the sun B's, and they go on through. They teach hot yoga. And in my opinion, it's not the hottest of hot. It's not the 105 degrees. So it's probably between 98 and 100 or something. So for me, that's nice. Sometimes I like to go hotter than that. But in this case, this is always sustainable and you still always completely sweat. The owner of Sun State so the whole team, the owner and her whole team are wonderful people, mindful, kind, dedicated, family-oriented, local, just a wonderful culture. And they often are offering packages and specials, and they run specials and all these kind of things. They do special workshops. So Sun State Yoga in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's perfect location, easy parking. I thought because it's near downtown that the parking would be hard. I actually had never tried it because I thought the parking would be hard, and you just don't want to circle around a place and you get frustrated. Parking was easy. And I loved that factor, but it's right near downtown. So it's kind of a win-win. So yeah, Sun State Yoga. Oh, and then their schedule, they offer lots of the classes I like at different times. So it's always it's always like my default backup. If I'm anywhere kind of near downtown or near my home, it's kind of, Sun State's becoming kind of my home yoga studio, because they've got the early morning, they've got the noon, the boom, it always kind of fits the schedule. So I found that to be wonderful, and I'm really glad I discovered Sun State Yoga. I have gone to Beachtown Yoga, and this is a great St. Pete style. So Beachtown Yoga is funky. It's in kind of a warehouse building. It's right in the warehouse district. It is definitely hot. That what's different about Beachtown is they kind of have teachers that come and go. They're like different independent teachers. They're not kind of part of one studio. This person might teach at Beachtown Yoga, but they also might teach somewhere else. But then you're getting tons of variety, and you're going there. At Beachtown, you will always get expert yoga. It's not like there's no hacks. They're all really good at yoga, very dedicated, very professionally trained, very focused on mindfulness, very focused on the principles. So I've always gotten great classes at Beachtown, and it definitely has that warehouse feel. And you have to park they have a small parking lot, and then you have to park on the street. So it definitely feels like Beachtown. It's a little bit more rugged. You bring your own stuff. It's not as much of a studio. It's a big warehouse and that kind of thing. But again, great culture, great people, super fun. So it's kind of like one of my once a week kind of things. This week I'm doing their Sunday class there. And then other things where the Berg CrossFit gym in St. Pete, I went to the Berg CrossFit gym because it was a certain day where I was looking for a power class and I couldn't find it somewhere else. And they offered it at the Berg CrossFit gym. Well, if it wasn't for ClassPass, I would never know that the Berg CrossFit gym offers yoga. And they have a yoga studio upstairs, beautiful. It overlooks the gym. So it's super cool. And so, and the teacher, Sol, she was a sweetheart, and she was totally mindful. She's European, and she had so much fun with it and just went with it. It was tiny group. I think we had like six of us in the class. And then what I discovered is they said, you should also come work out here at the gym. They allow dogs. And my dog Donovan, so they have all these people in the gym working out. And they're like, yeah, bring your dog. I'm like, holy cow, that is beyond awesome. And so I can sign up through ClassPass and do a workout session there and bring my dog on a Sunday. And all the people there were like, I'm kind of like a soccer mom nerd, and all the dudes and all the people there working out were so kind. They're like, come back, you should stay here, da da da. And so what a cool experience. And St. Pete is just cool like that. Everything is wide open to the air. There's people there doing cold baths. There's so much going on at the Berg CrossFit. So that was awesome. And new experiences. It makes me love my town even more. St. Petersburg, Florida is just awesome. Awesome people. I tried Rare Body Studio. And for Rare Body Studio, I was able to, and I'll give another shout out. There's another place right next to Rare Body called Fireflow, and they are not part of ClassPass, but I am going to go try Fireflow because I have a friend who raves about Fireflow on MLK in St. Petersburg. And so I'm going to pay cash for Fireflow to try it out because I have a friend that raves about Fireflow. But next to Fireflow, there's a ClassPass participant place called Rare Body Studio. And I took a yoga class that involved weights. It's their yoga sculpt. And I wouldn't do it for all of my yoga classes because it kind of gets you a little bit out of your mindfulness flow when you're kind of thinking about weights. But holy cow, when you're doing weights while doing yoga, like if you imagine leaning forward in a deep lunge, doing in Thunderbolt, when you're holding weights in your hands, you are shaking. It's an amazing workout. So it's kind of a cool mix. And then Tampa. I fell in love, North Tampa or mid Hyde Park-ish, Bella Prana. Bella Prana is a pristine studio with beautiful showers and multiple studios. So they always have like 3 classes going on. Really cool, wonderful studio. Huge variety of teachers. So you kind of have to learn, this teacher teaches this way, this teacher teaches that way. It's not all traditional Sun A, Sun B vinyasa sequencing, but I kind of love that. I showed up for one with a woman named Sandy recently, and she went nuts. She had us doing the absolute fullest expression of like the hardest bends, the hardest twists, that like things that you don't usually have in most of your classes. And we were jumping, balancing, we were doing side balances, we're doing all these crazy things where you kind of like you're actually falling. So you're working to your absolute limit, kind edge, right? We make the sustainable and kind, but we work to our edge. This class was all on the edge, things that you almost couldn't do or were still just learning how to do. And that was so cool. I love showing up and getting challenged in a class like that, where you think you know exactly what you're going to get out of a yoga class and you come out there going out of it going, what just happened? But it's super cool. So I love Bella Prana and they have all great, wonderful teachers. Everybody that goes to Bella Prana in Tampa is just cool, nice people. Kotawari, I love Kotawari. Kotawari is very earthy. It's another huge studio with tons of different studios with tons of different things going on, meditation going on, cold baths, saunas, sound baths, yoga classes, hot yoga, neutral yoga, power, the whole 9 yards. Different teachers, huge variety, but the community is very, very much that earthy, yoga focused community. So that Kotawari is amazing. And then holy cow, Camp Tampa was like a wonderland for fitness. If you haven't been to this Camp Tampa, and you fly here, if you haven't, fly to the Tampa area and go to Camp Tampa. It is a huge compound campus of different buildings, all different yoga studios, all different exercise studios, every type of class and fitness, and then gyms and like anything you want to do, biking, every type of class going on in this huge campus. It's totally fun. It's a wonderland. You know, at my age, there are plenty of people my age, but also if you're, you know, between the age of 16 and 30, for Tampa, it's like, again, it's like you could just hang out there all day. It's just a fun wonderland of fitness things. And that's Camp Tampa. There is one national chain in St. Petersburg. I really try to focus on local, and I think ClassPass is beyond amazing for helping local studios get discovered when you're a small, tiny little studio. And I happen to be on the west side of the county or the north side of the county, and ClassPass pulls me in to stop in there and give it a try. I discover it really helps me to discover these small local studios that do have something to offer. So I focus on local, but I did try a national chain quite a few times, and I am not so keen on that particular national chain because the classes were very rote per the national chain's dictates. And so the teacher is kind of being told what to do, like A, B, C, D, you know, for this class. And also the hot power classes that I took were a bit more like lukewarm, not really power in what I feel, what my body is used to. And so I didn't always kind of feel that I really did my whole workout. I kind of felt like, well, I took the class. Okay. So no insults to this. It's just not my cup of tea. But they do what they do well. And what I did find is that particular national chain offers crazy early classes like 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., tons of back-to-back classes. And so I definitely will still go to that national chain because if I have to go to the airport early in the morning, or if I have an early meeting in the morning, I can still get a class in. You know, I never want to be hijacked. I want things that work. So talk about something that clicks into a busy schedule and makes it work no matter what. Do what works in real life, IRL, not in the ideal world. It's the IRL world, which is your life is busy, but if you can get your workout in first, you feel great the rest of the day and you're maintaining your long-term goals. So that national chain offers these super early classes back to back. So I'm like, I can do a 5, I can do a 5:30, I can do a 6, that kind of thing. And so that is the superpower of that national chain. ClassPass helped me gain access to in a very, again, you show up, they've got you in the system. It's not like you're re-signing up at a million different studios. So the things that weren't my cup of tea, I'm not going to diss any local places because they are what they are for the audience that they serve. So they're not bad. I just didn't like the places that kind of are just a one-off room that different people come and teach from, kind of like independent contractors renting the room. I didn't like that because they don't have a uniform culture. They don't have a uniform feel. You're not walking into a community. You're kind of showing up with other strangers. There isn't a consistency of the people who attend, because you want to kind of feel like you go to a few classes that you start to have common friends in. And so some of these places where it's just a rented room where just some independent person rents it to teach wasn't quite my cup of tea. And then also in some cases you show up and don't get that full workout because it's, it's a room that wasn't built to be a hot studio. And so you want something that is really custom focused on the type of class that you want to take. And then there's just one where there was an amazing teacher, an amazing group, but it was a really tiny, cramped room. And so it was good for again, that very local, it was kind of like neighborhood people in a small room taking a class, and they all really knew each other really well, like had known each other from this class for like 8 years. And so I kind of felt like I was in a tiny room, but I felt like a stranger because they all knew each other, because it was very tiny neighborhood. And so that would just be, it's an option. And if you lived in that neighborhood, it'd be perfect. But I did experience it. And the teacher was a passionate, beyond amazing teacher. And then, yeah, so similar, there are a couple other studios like that where just for whatever reason, it didn't click for me. I also I like the hot power where I'm working beyond my physical capability. So I'm always building. And so if I went to a studio and the class essentially wasn't really power, and the people there seemed like they didn't do exercise a lot, like this was just a little light visit. And so I kind of like people who are there to push a little bit. I like to be doing something hard and seeing other people near me doing it, so that I kind of get encouraged. I get fed by people around me also, like, come on, we can keep doing this. So that's kind of the point of not doing it alone and doing it in a class, is you get that energy in the room. And so I seek that kind of class where it's, I'm not a snob. I don't want to be with all pros. I give myself the right to not go all the way in some classes, but I do like to be pushed, kind of that social pressure of pushing yourself harder some days. So I'm going to give you the math, and here's the summary of the math. And this is why it works for me. And I think it's going to be good for you. And I'm not getting anything from ClassPass. I'm a total neutral reviewer. But so when I looked at, so if you do the math, you have to look at how much are you using this per month. And so most studios that I looked at, and I've kind of looked through all of the studios that I found in my area that I'm attending. So in these studios, the class prices are generally, if you buy just one class cash, it's generally between $25 and $28 or $29 per class. That is a common price in my area. And, when you pay for ClassPass, you're paying it nationally. And so they undoubtedly, so the way the studios change their pricing is, every studio that enrolls in ClassPass, they can set their class credits as a price. So if Studio A in Tampa, Florida offers a class, they can offer any of their classes at any time of day a different credit price. So they might say this class is 5 ClassPass credits. Now, a studio in New York, where there's a higher cost of living and higher prices, they might charge 12 credits. And a studio in Tampa might also have their most popular class, and they might simply charge more for that. So they might say, I'm charging 12 credits for that. So the studios have total flexibility with zero risk. They can set their price. So, because sometimes people complain that ClassPass makes it hard on the studios, but it's really, it's up to the studio to enroll in ClassPass. They don't have to, but it's a fabulous way to get somebody like me into your studio. And then I do find my favorites, right? There are places I might consider buying a 10 ClassPass or more from, but the studios can set their price. So in general, it's very common for a single class for cash to be between $25 and $29 per class. Okay, so that's kind of definitely the number to beat. In a lot of the studios that I'm speaking of, the 10 class pass, if you go to the studio and buy a 10 class pass, which sometimes it'll expire over 6 months, some have longer, shorter policies, but you have to use them, within a reasonable time. So a 10 class pass can be anywhere from $19.50 for per class, or $24.90 is another example, and $21. So If you just walk in and pay off the street for a class, you'd pay $25 to $29. If you buy a package, then you'd pay like $19.50 to $24.90. So you're looking at $20 to $25, a little bit of a discount by buying a package there. And then if you buy, very few places now offer an annual membership, but most places will offer a monthly membership. And if you pay the monthly unlimited membership, and making the assumption for me is I take 12 classes per month. So it's 3 classes per week. So I take 12 classes per month on average. And so you can find numbers like $13.33 if you are paying the monthly unlimited and taking 12 or more classes per month. You would get your class cost down to $13.33, $11.58, and there's one in St. Petersburg that is the best deal you will ever find, which is $8, and I'll tell you that one at the end. But $8.83, best you're ever going to find. And so the question is, if you can do this month, the best prices you're going to get at a studio is this monthly unlimited, unless they have an annual, which is very rare. I didn't find many of those. And so if you're looking at prices like $13.33 and $12 per class, that's kind of the best you're going to do. But remember, you're then paying all of that monthly. So you're basically paying over $1,000 for, annually. So once you start to pay that, you're then limiting yourself to just one studio, because it kind of gets ridiculous paying $1,000 here, $1,000 there, $1,000 there, $1,000 there, which is why ClassPass is a solution to all of that, especially for people like me where my schedule changes or where I'm going to be. I might be on the south side of my county. I might be in North Tampa. I might be even further south. My days are there's a lot of variety in what I need and when and where I'm going to be at yoga. So if you take fewer than 12 classes, for example, if you take 8 classes a month, the prices are $20 per class, $17.38 per class, and $13.25 per class. So if you're just a hobbyist and you're only doing 8 classes per month, you are definitely paying more per class no matter what. So that would be the lowest you'll ever see is per class, $0.38 and $20 per class. Even if you're paying that monthly unlimited, which was generally, $1,200 a month or something $1,200 a year. So again, you have to look at what your utilization is. And again, the more variety you want, and the more you just dabble in this and that, the more you're going to want ClassPass, because that's what makes the pricing sustainable at all the different places that you want to be. So there we go. So what is the deal with ClassPass? What can we achieve per class? What's the price to beat with ClassPass? So if I look at my example, which is I take 12 classes per month, that puts me at, so I did an average of a bunch of weeks of classes. And so I'll give examples. I took one class and it was 3 credits. One class was 6 credits. And again, I wasn't like trying to pick how many credits I used. I just went, well, today I'm taking the 12 o'clock class for hot power in North Tampa, taking that one. Like I didn't budget. I just used what I used and I let it, whatever. So I took a class, it was 3 credits, took a class, it was 6 credits, 10 credits, 8 credits, 4 credits, 7 credits, 4 credits, 5 credits, 3 credits, 2 credits, blah, blah, blah. So the average number of credits for all of the different classes I took, whether it was early morning, noon, hot power, Tampa, St. Pete, etc., big gym, little gym, studio. So the average was 5.2 credits per class. So in the experiment I ran in real life with a lot of variety, working into my real life, I use on average 5.2 credits per class. 5.2 credits per class. And that puts me in a package where, so we'll look at the pricing here. So I take 12 classes per month. I use 5.2 credits or ClassPass credits for each of those classes. So the package that I purchase In order to do 12 classes, I need 62.4 credits per month on average because I tested out my utilization. And so the package that they sell is that works for me is the 68 credit package. And if you know what you need, it is definitely more valuable to buy a slightly larger package versus lower package. Because when you buy larger, you get a cheaper per credit price. If you go down and at the end of the month, you have to buy extra credits, you pay 1.5x more per credit. So when you're buying extra credits, you're paying $3 per credit, which makes the class end up way too expensive. It's not valuable. So again, I need for my schedule 62.4 credits per month. And so I'm buying the 68 credit package. And so the price for each of my credits is $2.04. So use that as a baseline. A normal person doing a normal amount of every other day I go to my gym, and then every other day so 3 days a week I go to a ClassPass yoga class or a ClassPass something. So the average there is you're going to be paying $2.04. This is 2025. So if the prices change in the future, fine. But right now in 2025, you're going to pay $2.04 for that type of package. 68 credits is realistic. And if you ever have extra credits, it's very easy to use them up. They roll forward. And so it's very easy you can do a spa treatment. You can do all these other things. I would not use ClassPass specifically for spa treatments or for hair. You can go to the hairdresser. You can do all these like beauty services. But when I looked at that, normal ClassPass yoga classes or exercise classes are 3 credits, 6 credits, 10 credits. If you're getting your hair done, they'll charge you like 100 credits, and you're like, at that point, I'll just pay cash, because it's crazy have to be buying all these extra credits and going high and low. It gets out of control, and what's the problem is you lose track of the actual math if you're doing these big add-ons or big sessions. So I would say if you're getting your hair done, just pay cash to get your hair done. But as far as ClassPass, you want the things that are predictable and regular in your schedule at these small amounts, the 2 credits, the 5 credits, the 10 credits, the classes that you normally take. That's where you get into the sweet spot of value with ClassPass. And so I will generally take 12 classes per month. The package I have is going to be 68 credits. And so based on their pricing of the 68 credit package, based on their pricing, that comes down to $2.04 per credit. So you think of one credit as $2.04. So if the average class that I take is 5.2 credits, and so 5.2 times 2.04, the average class that I take is costing me $10.61. So does it make sense to use ClassPass if everywhere else in all the other packages, I'm going to end up paying $13 per class or more? As you saw, if I was doing between 8 and 12 classes per month, and if I was paying the full monthly membership at a gym, the best price I could get is down to, you remember I mentioned before, there's one that was just $12, there was one that was $13, and so on. And then the other, if I was only taking 8 classes per month, I'd be paying like up to $17 or even $20 per class. In ClassPass, the math that I've done in real life on just a pure normal schedule, just letting it just happen as it is, I'm paying $10 in class. That is a win because it gives me access to any class, anytime in my schedule, in any location, while I'm traveling or while I'm busy or while I'm in a different end of town. That's incredible. I absolutely love it. And so that was a total win. And I'll just give a thumbs up to Sunstate Yoga, because Sunstate Yoga is the only studio in the St. Petersburg, Tampa, Sarasota area that blew the ClassPass deal out of the water, because you can get, based on my math, my 12 classes per month, down to $8.83. And it's near downtown, but also has easy parking, very uniform, mindful, wonderful community and that kind of thing. So I would give a special thumbs up to, like, I'm still kind of like mentally trying to see what my normal utilization and trying to see, should I just join, Sun State and then also use my ClassPass credits at all the other places, but I'm still going to kind of test it out before I just dive in. But definitely Sun State's kind of an unbeatable deal. I would say it depends on where you live, but this one studio could beat out ClassPass, but for me, the variety is kind of the sweet spot for me right now at this time in my life. Oh, yeah, right. So just basically for me, the win in the big picture beyond the pricing, now that I know the pricing, now I'm like not just mindlessly jumping into some package. Now that I see the pricing, I also see how the variety lets it all plug into my life no matter what. Whereas when I was paying one studio and that studio would make a schedule change or drop a class, I would be left high and dry, yet I was still paying this full-time membership to a studio where I couldn't use the classes. So this way, I feel like I have the power to make sure that I'm using my dollars exactly as I want to. And the fact that ClassPass credits roll forward, even if I do pay to take a class at another studio, it's not like I'm losing credits. Whereas like when I had this full-time membership at this other studio, I would kind of lose, if I didn't use enough classes, I was losing those dollars. Whereas with ClassPass, if I'm doing something somewhere else and I don't use those credits, they roll forward the next month. So I'm never losing. And there's a million extra services. If I end up, after a couple months, if I end up with lots of extra credits, I can use them to get some sort of massage or something like that. So no problem there. So in the end, this is great for me. It is definitely one of the experiments in my life that I'm glad that I tested, because it's making so many things click together and it's freaking fun. I have met so many fun people, and I've even met people who I didn't know, like all these just cool connections. It's like a cross section, the fitness and the yoga community in my whole broader my broader St. Pete, Tampa, Sarasota. It's kind of like this cross section of the community where all these people know each other and you start to go, you're that person, da da da. And since I do my nerd ballet at a gym, there'll be people be like, hey, aren't you the one I saw doing ballet at the gym? And I'm like, yeah, my nerd ballet. So really fun, really positive, really awesome. Solves timing problems. Like, how you have to be somewhere at 8:15, but if there's a class that starts 15 minutes just too late, you can't do the class because, like say there's a class at 6:30, but you would be like, well, I could be there if I could start the class at 6 or 6:15, then I could finish that before I go to my meeting. This way, no matter what, there's something on the schedule that'll work for me. It solves location problems. It solves the problems of studios changing their schedules. It puts me in the power of choosing where to go. It solves the problem when one studio doesn't offer enough hot power classes, because I really like the hot power, or at least power. And so if one studio only offers one hot power, then I can use that studio for that particular day or that particular time, but I've got many other options for all the other days. So yeah, it's not valuable to add credits. It's better to buy a larger package than to add on credits at the end of the month, because you'll just pay more per credit. Don't bother using it for spa and beauty unless you just have extra credits to use up. And it is great for discovering new local spots. If I'm in a given area, it kind of forces me to go to some little studio, because I'm like, well, I'm there and that's the only class within 20 minutes. And so I'll stop in there and take that class at lunch, and it's wonderful. ClassPass also shows what the studios have. So it shows if the studio has a shower. And so if you are taking hot classes at lunch, you may need a shower if you're going to change and go somewhere afterwards. And so it'll show you that. So if I'm really near home, I don't care if a studio has a shower. But if I am going to a place at lunch and hot power classes, you pour sweat. You're like soaked. You need a shower. So this way they show what the facility has. It lets me plan. Even if I've never been to a place, I can totally plan how my day is going to unfold after the yoga class. So again, it just makes it work. It's not like I'm going to get to the end of the day feeling like I didn't get my big rocks in. This way I get my big rocks, my big goals, my big priorities in, along with everything else that's going on in my day. I feel like no matter what people say about it being hard on owners, because some people feel that ClassPass kind of pressures owners to kind of undercut their class prices. I feel like it's invited me to places that I never would have visited any other way. And it definitely has made me invest more in those places. So all of these studios have, for most of their classes, they have extra spaces in the studio for a class. So if you have extra spaces, it is always good for a studio to fill that. And then if you fill that with a person who comes back regularly, that's a win for that studio. And then if I consider investing more or doing some of their specialty workshops that I pay cash for, they've just won another customer. So I think it's an incredible way to invite somebody in to your local place and gets me out of, just if I'm near someplace, I've said, well, I didn't even know there was a studio right by my appointment today. I'll go try that studio. So I feel like it's a win for owners, and owners are never pressured so much by ClassPass because they can set the price and they set the availability for any of their classes. They don't have to offer all of their classes on ClassPass, and they don't have to keep a low price. They can change the price for different classes. So it's really up to the studio and the owners to strategize how they want to use ClassPass. And so I feel like it's a win-win, and I'd be interested to hear what studio owners have to say about it. And the other thing that I've done is during this time, I told you I'm a research geek. So while I'm doing all these visits, I've been following some threads and some Reddit conversations about ClassPass. And while there are some little, there's some threads about, ClassPass sometimes doesn't even know how it does certain things. ClassPass, the app changes itself, whatever. In general, I have found the app to be very effective, very dependable, just awesome. So on the user end, as the customer end, it's been great for me. There's some Reddit threads about certain things being not perfect for some of the owners. However, in general, of all the negative feedback I've ever seen, everything I've seen on some of these chat rooms and Reddit conversations, there was nothing that was worse than any other SaaS software. Like everything seemed fine. So I think this is something that's going to be a continuing trend in the future. I just wanted to share that because when I set out to start to use ClassPass and research it, nobody would actually talk the truth of the numbers and how it works and how it compares to other ways of engaging with gyms and yoga studios and Pilates studios and biking studios and so on. So I would say give it a try. I don't have any sort of financial or sponsorship relationship with them. I just feel like it's one of those tools that in kindedge.com, when you're talking about any big goal, in kindedge.com, if you want to get a divorce, if you want to climb a mountain, if you want to change your career, if you want to become a screenwriter, if you want to write a book, any goal that you have in your life, you have to build into that. And you can even talk to, for example, writers like Robert Greene. Robert Greene will say, there are some writers who get bogged down in the writing and then their health just goes to garbage. And that reduces your ability to think. It reduces your critical thinking. Everything plugs together. Mind, body, soul, systems, they all click together in order to make your goal happen. So if you want to have a tough conversation with your spouse, you've got to be physically fit to handle that. Or if you need to go to your attorney to talk about a divorce, or if you do want to negotiate with your employer about changing your hours so that you can pursue your passion. All of these things require you to be physically fit and then soulfully and mindfully in line, defragged, in order to really go forward and have that energy and verve to have the tough negotiations and find solutions to messy problems and that kind of thing. So for me, everything that we do on kindedge.com has got to have fitness and mind and body health plugged in as one of the absolute sustainable elements and priorities in the everyday, or almost every day, in the every week. So this to me is a life hack. So I hope you will join me on kindedge.com. This is a journey on the project of you, and it's a journey that's not going to be easy, but it's going to be fun. Peace. So the summary of all of that is this about ClassPass. If you are somebody who wants a lot of variety or dabbles or doesn't want to take 12 or more classes per month at one studio or one type of class or whatever. If that is the case, then ClassPass is absolutely going to be part of your win-win for ensuring that health is always a priority in your long-term game. So for me, if you live in an area where you have access to these places and you're going to use these options a lot, the pricing, as you can see, is absolutely going to be beneficial. And then the added bonus of the variety in timing to fit your busy days, in locations to fit the variety of places that you need to be locally or while traveling. It's just incredible. Plus, it opens you up to new communities, new people. It gives you kind of the cross section of different fitness enthusiasts throughout your whole area, fitness and health enthusiasts in your area. So let's see here. Yeah. So yeah, great for me. Solves the problem of location, solves the problem of timing, solves the problem of the studios changing their schedule or dropping a class or not offering enough of the type of class you seek in your schedule. It solves all those problems, gives you more choices, more empowerment, more control. And then you still have the option, if you find that you have favorites, you can buy one of their 10 class passes or whatever it is that would make it beneficial for you and just stick to whatever your class pass package is. And then the fact that credits roll forward over time, if your utilization changes, it's no risk, it's no problem. You just kind of start every month, you kind of manage what you've used and you know where you're going. I would not use it for spa and beauty services on the regular. It's better to just no reason to ramp up with extra credits just to pay 100 credits to get your hair done. Just pay cash to your hairdresser or pay cash for the massage. But I would say if you end up rolling forward a bunch of credits and you have extra credits, that's the time to use those for a massage, because you purchased those credits as a package, which is the per credit cost that's beneficial. So instead of paying $3 per credit when you're adding on credits, that's the high premium cost. You want to get down near $2 in your packages. And then you're seeing the benefits of the ClassPass program. And then I feel like it's great for local owners because it brought me into so many places I would never have tried and would never have discovered. And I'm now a regular. I am filling the extra spots in their class because the teachers are teaching it anyhow. And I'm also then going to be on their mailing list, and I'm going to be aware of the special workshops they offer. And certainly if it becomes one of my regulars, I might be buying different packages there. So it definitely does great things for local owners. And the local owners always have control over they don't have risk because they don't have to offer every class. They only have to offer a few seats in a class, so they don't have to say the whole class is offered at ClassPass if they feel like they make better money in other packages and other memberships. And then they also can change what they're charging. So if they have a really popular class, they can charge 10 credits for that class. And if they have a class that they're having trouble getting people attending, they can offer that for fewer credits. So the owners have tons of flexibility and control. I also, as a geek, followed a bunch of online threads, and I followed some Reddit discussions about ClassPass over the last 2 months that I've been testing this out. And while there were a few complaints about variations in the way the owner's access to the app was working and certain things like that, and they were saying, oh, customer support at ClassPass didn't always know why the app was doing something or whatever. In general, in comparison to all the other software that I deal with and all the other SaaS programs that are out there, I see the overall ClassPass package and program being a win for local owners, a win for me, absolutely, and a win for that, it's the right fit. If this type of thing is what you want to fit into your life, and if it clicks to make it work, and I need things that I don't need hijackers, I don't need things that create barriers, I don't need things that make it hard for me to work out. I need things that just click into any schedule, any location, any time. And this definitely did the job for me. If you're a national chain, I don't know. National chains have such huge advertising programs. I don't know if they need this to be found. But I'm really focused on local communities and getting deep within my local community and inviting myself into studios that I wouldn't otherwise have found or tried. So I think this ClassPass thing is a part of the big picture Kindedge.com mission, which is rebuild your life to be the foundation that works in real life. Everything clicks together. It's easy. It's doable in the way that works for you and your schedule and your energy levels. And that way you're going to be fit. So if you want to get a divorce, if you want to climb a mountain, if you want to start a charity, if you want to write a book, you've got to be physically fit, mindfully fit, soulfully fit, and systematically fit in order to do that. You can, the author Robert Greene and many other authors who have done incredible work for many, many years have said, I can't just sit around and being, writing all day. If my brain doesn't work, my body doesn't work if I don't work out. So Robert Greene, until he had his stroke, was doing swimming, and he's still doing hours of physical therapy and that kind of thing. So it's part of the formula of his ability to focus and concentrate and read and research and take notes for hours and hours every single day. The physical fitness is a part of that formula. He isn't just a slumped over, melting into his chair writer. He's doing this active thing with his body in order to help his brain do all the other active work it needs to do. So I believe for every goal, if you want to be a TED Talk speaker, you're going to be nervous. You need to be physically fit and also soulfully fit and mindfully fit in order to control your breathing and to be able to do that type of thing. Or if you want to, anything else you're trying to achieve, if you're going to be presenting to try to get funding for a charity you want to start, you need to have all of these pieces click together. In Kindedge.com, we talk about the foundation, Kindedge 360, which is body, mind, soul, systems, and processes. And you get it all to work. So you need your gym, your classes, your workouts, your way of working out, your timing of working out, your location of working out. You need that to be for you. You aren't going to be hijacked by someone else's business. You need to choose these things and experiment and choose it for you. So I would say, even if you only do this type of ClassPass thing, maybe other competitors will pop up elsewhere. But for right now, the one I know is ClassPass, and this enabled me to experiment. And I might make changes in the future, but this is definitely clicking for me. So I hope you will join me on this kindedge.com journey on the project of you to unlock the alternate ending to your life. This journey is not going to be easy, but it's going to be fun. Peace.